So again, by understanding the nature and the formation of muscles that actually produce directional helicular swells as they move around the body, to allow the shoulder to move into these different positions, utilising the latissimus dorsi and the pectoralis major. But if you try to use a stick like this, you're trying to still use flexion extension. You've got to use a stick in a circular way, in keeping with the spinal dynamics and the musculature, and so the direction of forces just naturally equalised out and transmitted forward. So this becomes a swing, but it's actually a circular. So I've got the latissimus dorsi coming down here, investing the pectoralis group, and making this a sweep, which could eventually be utilised inside of a golf swing, but it's just pure natural movement. And ancient man always moved in natural ways. They actually did nothing unnatural at all. So everything that was developed, from a bow and arrow to a sai, was developed in keeping with the way he moved. And this is in keeping with the way that these muscles form in flow patterns around the body to actually rotate more than flex. Flexion is a pure movement, and in that, say, that sagittal plane, for instance, it's isolated, and therefore it's vulnerable to problem. Helicular movements are global, and if everything's global, the body's moving as one, and the icosahedrons are contracting and co-contracting as one movement. And so this becomes a natural swing and natural flow, and this could be done all day long because it's just free pendular swinging. There's no muscular activity to get tired, and that's the way fishes swim and birds fly. It's just movement. It's just pure movement. Again, depending on the length of the weapon and the utilisation of the battle, you might want a long strike, and you might want to push through, and you'd think you would be tempted to use your muscles to stab. It's much better to use your body to propel. It's a much more potent force and very accurate. And so you can bring it around here. You've got swings, you've got more swings. So you're swinging wide, but that's a scything type of movement. You can see you're using the whole body. It's a scythe movement. It comes around, it's swinging, and it's got precision. This isn't a stab, it's a thrust. Totally different movement. So depending on the weapon, the taijutsu is actually exactly the same, and the fulcrums are the same that you're working and operating out of. It's just the dynamics of movement that change along that moment. So what you've got here with the sword, I mean, it would be actually heavier. Some of the old swords would be as high as the man himself, and of quite a weight. And to think of this kind of a sword is a bludgeoning tool. But even in the old days, in medieval times, you don't hold the sword with tight hands, because that restricts the body, and you start to use musculature to actually try and flex or extend your body to make the weapon work. Whereas if you look at the basic concept of body movement, you take away that temptation to try to grip the sword or try to move the sword with any musculature, and body movement allows the fulcrums to change. The spatial fulcrums or the suspended fulcrums to change, and the body or the taijutsu of the fighter would then follow the movement of the floating of the sword. So the sword is now very light. So what you've done is, if you had a normal moment on a beam, then the weight is cancelled out at the moment, and if you shift the moment, the whole of the beam shifts. And what we've got to do is we've got to alter that fulcrum, so we've took the moment to a different place, a disadvantaged place in terms of weight, but your body produces nodal points around it, so you've got different vectored forces that actually shift the moment to a different part of the sword and make it the same weightlessness as the middle, so you cancel out those forces. So then as you shift your body, you're contracting and co-contracting icosahedrons in the spine and the spinal movement to actually produce the projectile force of the sword. So the sword is an end product of a movement rather than a movement coming from a muscle. So it's got to be complete in the body movement. And it's about the taijutsu that's coming around from the sword movements that make it light and make you able to do many things with it in a light way, in a light fashion. You hardly need your hands. Your hands are just directors of what you want to do with the sword. And that's the difference in movement coming from the spine, or movement coming from a mechanistic action of muscle contraction.